Here inside, Quicken Loans Arena, the Cavs bounce back after their worst loss of the season against the Atlanta Hawks on Wednesday night. They beat the Brooklyn Nets here at the Q, 95-91. Chris Fedor, Joe Vardon, Chris Haynes with you to recap this one. And Joe, before the game, the Cavs decide to make a lineup switch.
Yeah. Third
different shooting guard that they're using this year. This time it's going to be Mike Miller in the starting lineup, Shawn Marion to the bench, and that move pays big dividends for David Blatt tonight.
Boy, I can't remember if it was you asked him or maybe it was Haynes, but someone asked him, what could you even imagine what it would have been like tonight without Mike Miller out there? And Coach Blatt says, I don't want to. That's how stark of a difference that it made. I mean, 7 of 8 from 3. He's out there with LeBron. I mean, he came here because of LeBron, and you could, of course, tell that they had played all these years together in Miami and won those championships. I mean, 4 of LeBron's 9 assists were to Miller, for threes. I mean, it was, and that's not the only way that he helped, but it was, yeah, I mean, he really made a big difference.
And Chris, before the game, David Blatt said it wasn't necessarily because Shawn Marion wasn't giving us something that we wanted. We're doing this because we want to fortify the second unit. In the process of doing that, it ignited Mike Miller, something that maybe David Blatt wasn't expecting when he made this move. Or maybe he was expecting it and he didn't want to say it.
Yeah, well, I don't think he was expecting it to that magnitude. But isn't it just lovely, just from a basketball fan, just watching the game of basketball, to actually see a real shooting guard out there playing a position. Somebody that could spread the floor. No knock to Shawn Marion. He did what he was supposed to do. He's a better defender than Mike Miller. He went out there. That's what he was asked to do. But it's just, man, I just love just to see a guy that can shoot the ball, get out there, roam in some space, and knock down some open shots. And David Blatt said, yes, it did fortify the bench. You've seen Shawn Marion come out there looking more aggressive, being more aggressive on his shot. 8 points. He comes in averaging 5.2, I believe. So he definitely played a little bit better. And you will hope that dion-waiters gets his groove and he starts playing. But I think it was a bold move. A lot of people questioned it at first, saying, hey, they need defense in there. But I think everybody's seeing what Blatt had in mind.
Well, you mentioned it about Shawn Marion. The other thing tonight for him is he didn't have those cover-your-eyes moments. He didn't have those moments where he was just sitting in the corner or sitting on the wing and firing off airball threes. And again, it's not a knock on Marion. It's who he is. He's a small forward that was playing shooting guard. Sometimes he's going to play power forward. That kind of guy can't be your starting shooting guard if you're chasing a championship. So the real question here, Chris and Joe, is now that he's made this move, is this a Band-Aid or is Mike Miller the answer to the shooting guard problem?
I think it's a Band-Aid because Mike Miller, even though I think he fits the position more so than Shawn Marion, he's not a shooting guard. He can't guard the two to save his life. And, David Blatt tried to say, Mike Miller uses angles well. He plays deep. No, Mike Miller is not a defensive player. He plays hard, but he can't stick with a lot of these top athletic wing players out in this league. I think it's a Band-Aid, but it's a good Band-Aid right now. It's the best Band-Aid they got right now. Any brand of Band-Aids that you're aware of?
Band-Aid.
Yes. He's a Band-Aid brand right now.
All right. It's the right Band-Aid for the right time because you think about what's coming on Sunday. Memphis, I was reading this morning, they're the slowest paced team in the league. So Sunday's going to be a half-court game. You need someone who can be standing out there in the perimeter and knock down these shots when it's a drag them out, slugfest type of game.
So, Joe, what do you think? Do you think this is a temporary solution, or do you think this is the answer?
Well, I'm not in the GM's office. I don't know what trades they're going to actually be able to pull the trigger on. We all know some of the areas that they're interested in, and the 2 or 3 is one of them. But we talked to LeBron the other day. Is there talent on this team to win? And he gave us kind of the Heat mantra that when you're with the Heat, that's what you always say, yes, the talent is in this room. But I think he believes that, and I think that if they're not able to make a move this year at the 2 spot, then, they've got somebody who can shoot the ball.
95-91, the final. Cavs win tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. One guy that the Cavs did not trade for, Corey Brewer. Chris, you and I, Joe, we've all talked about this name. It's been out there for a long time. He's on his way to the Houston Rockets in a 3-team deal. Now, some Cavs fans, they'll look at that trade and say, wait a minute, what? we couldn't put a package together for Corey Brewer to match that kind of thing because they gave up Troy Daniels and they gave up a couple of second-round picks and they gave up cash. Why was Corey Brewer not the answer for the Cavs at this moment?
Well, I think he might have been the answer, but I just think with Minnesota, they felt like that was a much more better package than what the Cavaliers can offer. When you talk about the trade exception, you talk about what players could they bring in. Really, there really any players that entice Minnesota. Talk about Dion-Waiters, and we talked about that before. You don't want to bring Waiters into a situation where you got a lot of young guys over there. You just don't want to bring in the wrong people. So in that standpoint, I think Minnesota did what they felt was best for them and best for their team. And in Houston, they're going to look good over there.
Speaking of Dion-Waiters, did he get traded at halftime? And they didn't tell us.
Man, 6 minutes. 6-7 minutes. I mean, that's just – he went in there right. Mike Miller was playing so well. Yeah. Shawn Marion came in and did his thing where it was like, okay, Dion, we're going to give you a moment. Now, if you don't show us anything within that moment, which I believe he's 1 for 4, we're going to sit you down because right now we got a good thing going on right now. So as long as Mike Miller continues, he's not going to knock down 7 or 8. But as long as he's continued to knock down that shot with some regularity, Shawn Marion comes in and is a force, Dion is going to have a window. And if he doesn't show anything in that 5-minute window, it can be like this from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, and what we were talking about earlier with depending on the opponent, there'll be nights when they're playing Oklahoma City, Golden State. I mean, teams that fly up and down the court where Dion-Waiters, that would be a good game for him. But against the Nets, who are slow, against Memphis, who's very good and very disciplined, you know, that's not his game. He's tried to be the spot-up shooter, and it's just not there yet.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying from that perspective, and you're probably right. But this is a guy that was supposed to be in the starting lineup at the beginning of the year. Then he was talking about winning 6th man of the year. Now you're talking about not even being able to play him in certain matchups. How far has he fallen here?
Well, I mean, it's a numbers game. I mean, you think back to the beginning of the year when he was starting and Shawn was playing some and Mike Miller wasn't playing at all. So out of those 3 guys, one of them is not going to play very much. It looks like it's Dion's turn. You know, it's only one game, but as we've talked a couple times now, there's a part of the schedule where he doesn't match up as well.
Chris, it wasn't just Mike Miller tonight picking up the slack. You mentioned it. Shawn Marion had 8 points. Tristan Thompson, 9 points and 10 rebounds. Other guys stepping up. The big 3 tonight, guys, 16 of 48 from the field, and yet the Cavs still won. And yes, it was Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was not very good tonight, and they were playing without Darren Williams for much of the game, and they didn't have Brook Lopez, and they've already made a trade. But to win this game when the big 3 struggled the way that it did, what does that tell you?
It tells you that the team they're growing. I think for the most part of the season, the big 3 has carried this team. Other guys, the younger guys or the role players, they looked and see, okay, that's how you can win. This is how you can grow. So they've been learning from afar. Now they're in situations where they've developed, you know, on the court and during practice. So now when they're being put in ball games, they're coming up and they're producing. And that's only going to bode well for them later on. Pop is tremendous in doing that, where he will sit guys and allow his second group or even the third group to get in there and have some success, and it helps them. Now, Black is not sitting these guys. They sat themselves just because of the type of production they was giving out here tonight, and so that enabled some of these guys to do it. Same kind of thing, so a little popish, but you get my drift.
All right, here's the million-dollar question, the question that so many people were asking in the comment section tonight, because for much of this game, the Cavs were not playing very well. And you win by 4 points against a shorthanded Brooklyn team. And Brooklyn at times, they're playing Sergei Karasev, and they were playing this dude named Jerome Jordan.
You remember that guy? How you pronounce his name? Karasev?
Sergei Karasev.
Okay. He had 12 points.
Yeah, and then what happened? He turned back into a pumpkin because the clock hit midnight.
But let's keep this in perspective, though. Remember, we were just talking about, you know, average players coming in and that was a career high.
That was. Yes, you're right. He's adding to the list. However, he is Sergei Karasev, and they were playing extended minutes with Brandon Davies. So the Cavs, it wasn't the prettiest of wins tonight, 95-91 against this Brooklyn team. And what everybody is wondering, as Memphis is on the horizon, as some of these other better teams are on the horizon, this Cavs team, the way that it's built right now, I know it's early, it's December, it's a quarter of the way through the season, though. This Cavs team, the way that it's built right now, can it win the championship in year one?
Well, I mean, you and I both said they could,
Yeah.
and we're just not far along. We're not far enough along yet to abandon that, in my opinion.
I'm not feeling 70 anymore.
Well,
that's
Gary,
for
you
sure.
can abandon that one. But, I mean, it's – what is it? What do they play, 24 games?
Yeah.
25?
Yeah.
I mean, they have shown they can play with anybody, I think, when they feel like it and when the ball's going in the hole and, they're playing defense and all that. It's just it's a process. I hate to use coach speak, but, yeah, I am – it's too early to say that this team can't gel.
All right. So he gave the coach answer, basically a non-answer right there from Joe Vardon. Chris?
With this team as currently constructed, there is no way in hell this team can win a championship this year. Okay. We haven't seen – I've covered the Western Conference for the past 5 years. The Warriors over there, Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets. Cavs cannot beat those teams in a 7-game series. I'm sorry. In the East over here, beating up on these little Eastern teams, the Cavs look good. They look like they're at the top of the chain. But those West teams over there, Portland Trailblazers, a team I covered personally, please, it ain't happening. Team that's currently constructed, I don't care how much they improve. If this team stays the same, they cannot win a championship this year.
They don't have to beat all those Western teams.
They can't beat any of those Western.
They only have to beat one.
Dallas Mavericks, Rajon Rondo going over there. Come on now. Come on.
That's where this question came from, because you're at a point in the season where teams are honestly assessing the roster and reevaluating things. Yeah. Just like Dallas did. Dallas decided, hey, we need some help in the backcourt. Let's go get Rajon Rondo. Houston decided, hey, we don't have enough on the wing. We don't have enough depth there, so we've got to go get Corey Brewer.
I mean, but I just think, would it help them if they were able to make a move? Sure. Are they trying to? Of course they are. But when you have, arguably the best player in the league, absolutely a second player who's in the top 10, in my opinion, in Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love, who is arguably in that 10 to 15 range. I mean, when you have that three, those kinds of players on your team, I would hate – I don't think you can count them out.
So you think time is what the Cavs need?
Absolutely. It's plenty of time. They're 5th in the East right now. Yep. You think they're going to end up 5th in the East? I mean, that's how early we are.
What would they be in the West right now?
Well, actually, they'd be what? They'd be 8th, 7th, 8th? Because Oklahoma City is like right at 500 and they're 9th. Yeah. So, okay.
They won't be there, though. Oklahoma City won't stay there. You know that, right?
Well, the Cavs aren't going to stay 5th.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Good measuring stick game for the Cavs coming up on Sunday right here at the Q against the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis lost to Chicago tonight. Once again, the final tonight, Cavs beat the Brooklyn Nets 95-91. For Joe Vardon and Chris Haynes, I'm Chris Fedor. Good night from the Q.